La primera, shalom a todos.
Shalom.
De Jerusalén, de Israel, mi querida Ana. Primero, quiero agradecerle para su muy amable introducción a mí, a todo aquí, información muy generosa y espiritual en este lugar muy precioso. Y ahora, si me permita, voy a hablar en inglés, porque si continúo en español, podemos quedar aquí hasta mañana. Yo soy, hay aquí mucha gente muy importante y muy ocupados. Sí, en inglés. So I really want to thank Ana, la señora Ana Bloch, for this great invitation. It's really a pleasure and honor to be here with you and with all your guests here. I'm very honored to be here with our ambassador, Mr. Rafael Dad, who came especially from Brasilia, and our consul honorario, Osias and Susie, his wife. Woodman, very important, and thank you very much for doing all these efforts for the visit here. And of course, I'm very honored to be with all of you, and of course, especially with this alcalde, with the vice mayor, also the jefe de ambiente, y también la jefa de educación. I'm very honored to be here also with the descendant of the family of Osvaldo Arania, which is one of the great heroes in Israel. Many streets, Arania streets, and he's a very special person that we all honor and adore. And I think the spirit of Arania continues to blow in the relationship between Israel and Brazil. I think this is very important. So I came 2 days ago. It seems like it was already a month ago because we did so many things. But I found, Rio, of course, is the most beautiful place. I think it's probably one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I heard and I was amazed to hear that in Rio only 3.5 million tourists a year. I think it should be 35 million tourists a year. But maybe after the World Cup and after the Olympic Games, you will have here many more. I think you deserve many more because not only the city is beautiful, but also the people are so nice and the people are so hospitable and are so generous. And very much I felt here like home. And many of you who came and visited Israel know that the spirit of Brazil and the spirit of Israel is very much alike. People are very warm, people are very, I would say, hopeful, very optimistic for the future. In Israel, we have had a bad location. Bad location because of terror, because of radical Islam, because of Iran, because the Palestinians do not want to make peace with us, even though we give them a lot and we want to make peace with them. But I think with all this bad location, we have a spirit of cooperation and we plan for the future. I think it's very important to plan for the future. And in the daily life, we worry about the geopolitical developments. And there are many developments in the Middle East. I believe that the Arab world will not be the same. What we see is only the beginning. It's going to continue and break up to many sub-units. Maybe it is like when the communist empire rose up, everything was broken. After 70 years, also they're going to break up. Maybe, and we will see a lot of a lot of changes. We have to remember that the Arab world, most of the countries are artificial countries. They are not rich with history and tradition, and they are not homogeneous.
Yes.
How were they made? They were made by two European diplomats in 1916. One was a French diplomat, Mr. Picot. The other one was a British one, Mr. Sykes. 1916, the British and the French took the map of the Ottoman Empire, and they divided areas of influence, areas of power, and all that. This is how Syria and Lebanon and Iraq and Libya, all of this were made. So now we may see the Middle East going back to the area before Sykes. Because we see, and this is what we learned in communism, that artificially we cannot change the nature of the people. And the people in the Middle East, still, most of their allegiance is to their tribes, to their clans, to their ethnic group, to the religion group. And there are many. You see, the Middle East is not monolith. You know, you have Sunnis, you have Shiites. But with the Shiites, you have many subdivisions, like the Alawites. Alawites is part of the Shiites in Syria. Assad is Alawi. The Sunnis have many different things. And of course, tribes. Libya, for instance. In Libya, there are 140 different tribes, unfortunately. So we may see there, and we already see the beginning of the civil war. So there are going to be many changes. And unfortunately, I think we have to worry that the changes will not be like in Iran in 1979. Iran 79 also is the same. It was a revolution, democratic revolution, but for 4 weeks. Mr. Khomeini came from Paris. This was the end of the democratic revolution. It was Islamic revolution, and we cannot afford another regime like in Iran, in the Middle East, or anywhere in the world. But this is what we have to deal with day to day. And this is why we have the Cancilleria, we have the government, that we worry about it all the time, with our friends, like-minded countries. You know, of course, we have the United States, Europe, but Brazil. We look up to Brazil. Brazil, for us, not only is a friendly country, but Brazil, we see, is an important player and becoming more and more so in the world arena. So we welcome Brazil's contribution and participation. But we have to think, and I think this is what leadership is all about. Not just to deal with the problems of the day. It's very important to deal with the problems, but also preempt the problems of tomorrow. And the problems of tomorrow concern all of us, because the world is becoming smaller and smaller.
It's not only for
Yes. And we have problem of sustainable development, and this is so important to have the Rio 20 here in June. Israel is going to send a big delegation to the Rio Plus 20.
Yes.
With
And
our
the director is there is said because he's been and therefore he is a grandson of the president.
Oh, wow.
And therefore that is
But he will be our Minister of Ambiente is coming, our Minister of Agriculture is coming, and a big delegation of experts. And we have Brazil is a leader in sustainable development, and when we look into the future, what is the real problem? The real problem is food security. Not in Brazil or in Israel, in all the world, in Africa, in Asia. Today, we are a world of 7 billion population. In 20, 30 years, 10 billion. So the problem is going to be very acute. We need food security, water management and security, renewable energy, all these things. And Israel and Brazil they have a great potential of cooperation. So from here, the ambassador, myself, will go to Brasilia, speak with the federal government, and I believe we can do a lot in terms of scientific cooperation, trade, investments, and also increase our political friendship. Also, one last thing I want to say, that we have a great asset here and in Israel, and this is the Jewish community in Brazil. This community is a great bridge between Brazil are very, very proud Jews, and they're very, very proud Brazilians. And this is a great, great mix. So again, Anna, I want to thank you for introducing me to your great guests here, and I want to wish you success and good life and long life, and long live the friendship between Brazil and Israel. And one last token of appreciation, a little memento I bring to you from Jerusalem. This is something